Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. The anti-police movement in America, that is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. Yesterday, a group called the Stop Mass Incarceration Network suggested that all Americans protest, quote, the injustice of mass incarceration and police brutality. In New York City, maybe 400 protesters turned out to block traffic and yell stuff. 42 were arrested, 2 police officers hurt. In Los Angeles, about 100 protesters turned out. There were 14 arrests in the city of Angels. In Oakland, far left city, only about 100 people showed up. No arrests were made there. So you can see the anti-police call was not exactly heated. The reason is the vast majority of Americans understand that most of the nation's 1.2 million law enforcement agents are good people who risk their lives to protect the innocent. But with high tech now capturing dubious incidents, it's easy for cop haters to demonize the entire law enforcement community. In North Charleston, South Carolina, a police officer was recently caught on tape killing an unarmed black man who was running away from him after a traffic stop. The officer, Michael Slager, is charged with murder. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, a 73-year-old reserve deputy shot and killed a black man who was allegedly trying to sell a firearm. The deputy, Robert Bates, has been charged with manslaughter. And in San Bernardino, California, 30-year-old Francis Pusack was beaten by as many as 10 cops after running away from them on horseback. Pusack, who is white, has been charged with a variety of low-level crimes. The deputies have been put on leave. Again, with cameras everywhere, any police misconduct now becomes a national story. So police training must improve to ensure that deadly force is used only in extreme situations. Yes, police face difficult situations every day, but along with arrest authority comes deep responsibility. The perps are expected to be irresponsible. The cops are expected to be noble, and most of them are. But to people like Miami Herald columnist Leonard Pitts, that statement is false. Pitts has made a career out of exploiting grievance, whether it's legitimate or not. He recently wrote, quote, Bill O'Reilly of Fox News, and he's got the little news in quotes in his column, has already invoked misleading statistics to assure his audience that there doesn't seem to be, as some people would have you believe, that police are trying to hunt down young black men and take their lives. In other words, move on, nothing here to see. The stats Pitts is referring to come from the Centers for Disease Control and say that 3 times as many white folks are shot by police as black folks. Now, we asked Mr. Pitts to come on the program, but he's hiding under his desk because he knows he's misleading his readers. American police are not hunting down black men in order to kill them. That's not happening, Leonard, and shame on you for implying it is. The overall anti-police movement is basically thematic. It believes that the U.S. justice system is unfairly putting black men in prison for crimes like selling narcotics. Many on the left see nothing wrong with selling heroin, cocaine, and meth. They call it a nonviolent crime that should not be punished harshly. Meantime, entire neighborhoods like the south side of Chicago are terrorized by drug gangs, and millions of Americans have been enslaved or even died from using addictive poisons. But the crime is nonviolent. Talking Points believes that insane views of the world can poison actual societies. And that is what these anti-police people are trying to do. Yes, there is police abuse, and it must be punished. There's no excuse for it. But no, America is not a place where minority people are targets of organized injustice. Thank God most of us seem to know that. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight reaction. Joining us from Los Angeles, Tavis Smiley, commentator on both TV and radio, also author of the brand new book, My Journey with Maya, about his friendship with the esteemed author Maya Angelou. So where am I going wrong here, Travis?
You said a lot tonight, Bill. I don't know where you want to start, but I would start here that I don't think that these persons protesting yesterday or those of us who've spoken out against police in the past are, to your point, anti-police. We're anti-police misconduct. We're anti-police abuse. But I don't think inside the black community you find an extreme anti-police sentiment, primarily because too often African Americans are the disproportionate victims of violent crime. So if anybody wants to be protected and served by the police force, it is African American community. So to label anyone broadly as anti-police, I would agree that's not the case. But
you don't think this group, Stop Mass Incarceration, is anti-police? Come on.
No,
I mean, this is a very militant
think,
group that called for this protest.
I think that what we're saying is that we are the most we imprison more people in this country than any other civilized. Hold on, Bill. We imprison more people in this country than any other civilized or uncivilized
But Tavis, you know what the reason for that is: the drug traffic.
Exactly, it's drug. But Bill, there are far more drug users in prison than there are drug dealers.
You know that's not true. You know that isn't true. You can't go to prison in most states for drug using. It's only selling.
There are more drug users than drug dealers. Even if you're talking selling,
that's not true, Tavis.
These are nonviolent crimes, as you said. You might find it laughable, but they're nonviolent crimes. Number one.
Wait a minute. You think selling heroin?
No,
Tavis,
Bill.
You think selling heroin to your kid is a nonviolent crime? Do you really?
Bill, I think there are a lot more people in jail for marijuana.
You're dodging the question, and there aren't for marijuana.
Bill, I'm not
it's all sale. Wait,
but
you got to answer this question. You think that selling heroin to your kid, Tavis, is a nonviolent action? Do you really?
No. Bill, you're singling out heroin. What I'm suggesting to you
cocaine,
is
methamphetamine.
You want to focus in on one slice of the problem. We have a drug crisis in this country. There's a great conversation going on about whether or not we ought to legalize drugs, as you well know. But at the end of the day, these are non-violent offenses. And let me say one last thing. Let me just say one last thing.
Stats do not belie
that. This drug crisis, Bill, this drug crisis is much more of a health crisis than it is an illegal concern about people taking other people's lives.
The states and the feds have no interest in putting drug addicts in prison. You have to sell.
But they do every day, Bill.
You have to transport.
They do every day.
Only if they're caught selling and transporting. I mean, you know that. There are junkies on the street in every major city lying there nodding out, and the cops leave them alone.
Let me ask you a question. Given all the crime that takes place in this country, do you think that selling marijuana is the worst offense?
Marijuana doesn't concern me. 75% of all the break-ins, robberies, child abuse, and neglect is generated by drug-addicted people, okay? So, number one, they're not innocent. And number two, the substance that compels them to commit crimes is deadly.
And Bill,
deadly. And this is nonviolent actions? Come on.
I would add this, too. I don't have these numbers in front of me, but I can guarantee you that heroin is not the choice, is not the drug of choice for most folk living in the hood.
Well, whatever it may be, crack, cocaine, it has devastated the minority black community in America. You know that's true. And the crime rate in those communities has come way down because of the incarceration rate. Because they have mandatories, they take them off the street, and it's a much safer situation.
And the result of that is that black families have been crushed. Black families across this country have been crushed because of this faux war on drugs in this country.
I'm telling you.
And what you too often suggest, my friend, is that the black family just sort of collapsed like a souffle in the oven. It didn't just collapse. The truth of the matter is that there has been policy on the books that has caused the collapse of the black family.
It isn't the policy that's caused it. It's the personal conduct. If you're going to become addicted, your family's going to collapse. If you're going to become addicted to a substance, your family's going to collapse. And it doesn't have anything to do with law enforcement.
It's not either or. It's both and, my friend.
All right, let me ask you one more question here. Do you believe that police agencies around the country are targeting young black men to hurt them?
I do not. But here's what I do believe. I do not. We agree. But here's what I do believe. What I do believe is that too often in these conversations, you and others suggest every time one of these incidents happens that it's an isolated incident. My question to you, Bill O'Reilly, is how many isolated incidents equal a pattern?
I can't answer the question. I can only give you...
Now you're dodging,
because
right?
it's an impossible question. I'm not dodging. It's an impossible question to answer with any certainty. All I can do is give you the statistics. And in 2013, I believe it is, might be 12, it was like 135 black men killed by police. There's 1.2 million police in the country. So I wouldn't say that's a pattern, Tavis.
Which makes my point. When you try to tell black people every time one of these incidents happens and another precious young life is lost, that it's just an isolated incident, that's offensive, number one. But number two, as you said earlier,
if the numbers aren't there to support
I agree, Bill.
I agree. You got to say
it. I agree with your facts earlier. There are far more white people maimed by cops every day in this country than black people. And this is why this ought to be a concern for all Americans,
all right.
not a color-coded issue. We got to respect and revel in the humanity of all fellow citizens.
And I have to stick up for the cops because I think generally they're doing a good job. But a great debate, Tavis. It's always good to have you on the program. And again, Tavis's book is called My Journey with Maya, well worth checking out.